Call meeting to order, roll call.
Okay, Mayor Webster.
Here.
Fender. Here. Overmore.
Here.
Laney.
Here.
Us.
Here.
Lincoln.
Here. Okay, public forum? I don't think so. Consent agenda. Any questions? If not, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make that one.
Roll call?
Thank you.
Yes.
Overmore.
Yes.
Fender. Yep. Us.
Yes.
Laney.
Yes. Ordinance 431. Is this the one we want?
I don't know, we'll just throw it out there for some discussion and see what everybody thought of this. So that's page 5. Just the concept being that this is a response fee. It's not a fine, not a penalty. It's a response fee if our police or fire department gets called down to the lake because of somebody riding over open water. You know, actually, they either get called down there, or if they also witness this, they don't need to be called down there. You can witness it themselves. But that in the event that they respond, that the owner operator of the snowmobile would be assessed this response fee. Okay, the fee is for all services rendered. Okay, so if the costs are more than $500, it's for all services rendered, but the minimum charge would be $500. Because it's not a fine, it's a fee. That's why we have that next section about how these fees are paid. And basically, they are then invoiced by the city, and the person is then does pay them directly to the city clerk. Okay, actions for collections shall be brought in the name of the city, and it's the same manner as other actions of law. I think basically that probably ends up as judgment, but then the city's also entitled to interest in the attorney fees and any of the costs for enforcing the collection. So to get to this point, what I did is talk with our codification company and ask them for suggested ordinances about fees. And they gave me some suggested ordinances, but they primarily dealt with ambulance fees. And so this is something a little bit unique, but we took this ambulance fee ordinance and tweaked it into to apply to this situation. I gave Aaron a draft of this, and then we had some significant changes in it to get to where we're at right now. So this would be a proposed ordinance.
I just have a couple of questions. We can do that even though that's really not technically our jurisdiction on the lake? Is that right? Because it's not a fine. Is that where
well,
it is?
That is the deal. Because even if
maybe jurisdiction's not the right word.
well, jurisdiction is the right word, because it's not our jurisdiction. You know, we don't have law enforcement authority. But again, at the same time, we do have emergency response responsibilities there,
Okay.
at least to some extent. So it's certainly a justifiable fee.
What if, I don't know that there would be other motorized vehicles, but there's obviously others that ride on the lake. I don't know that any others would be stupid enough to try it open water, but would it be worth being just like any response to a motorized vehicle of any sort going across the water that requires a response? I don't know. I just didn't know if it was worth being as specific to snowmobiles as that, because there's a lot of different things that people do out there.
Yeah, you're right, there might be somebody who takes a car.
Yeah, it happened up above Bougie last weekend.
You can, I think, cover a lot of that by just simply inserting after snowmobiles. To say, when respond to a call involving snowmobiles or any other vehicle crossing open water, you know, something to that extent catches any potential type of variation of something that might be out there.
You'd like it to say that to you?
Well, yeah, I think, why be as specific to snowmobiles, and I know we've talked about this before, but in the event that someone would inadvertently enter with a motorized vehicle into the water that wasn't attempting to cross open water, that it just really was an accident, if you will, that would be subject to this fine? Or-
Well, two things. So, the police department, just with this, as with really any of the ordinances, there's an amount of discretion that the police department can exercise whether they would want to assess the fees.
Okay.
The other thing that is in here specifically for that is where it says the police chief may assess this fee, as opposed to shall.
Okay.
Anybody else?
And my only other comment is I talked with Jimmy Garland about that and seeking a little input as fire chief, very much in favor of this, seeking any input as far as an avid snowmobiler was, you know, again, very much in favor of it.
Nothing might change that.
You'll move to do that with that
Yeah,
addition?
that, you know.
For a second?
One
Okay, roll call?
Wait, yes, Baldwin,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Huss.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
So that was for the first.
First reading, third reading. Do we want to waive the second and third, so, because if we wait 3 meetings, it can be passed.
Yeah.
It'll be not open water.
Very,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
open on.
It's up to the councilman, you can waive the second, third, and reading.
What were you choosing?
We're gonna pass it anyway, so that's
What
why.
do we have to do to do that?
The next motion is to waive consideration of all 3 separate readings. It's actually that you're waiving the statutory requirement that the ordinance be considered at 3 separate readings. So we need a motion on that.
I'll make that. Second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Thank you. Yes, Slater? Yes. Baldwin,
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Huss?
Yes.
And we need one more, so this motion would be to finally pass ordinance number 431.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Huss?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Slater? Yes. Lane?
Yes.
Okay, the ordinance is passed.
How many signs are there? I mean, I think that sign stands out well. I mean, I drew Jamie's attention first before you could go back this time. But, I mean, it does really stand out, you know.
coaching? Okay.
Suggested.
3 of those signs went up, didn't they, Jack?
There's 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought of
We,
one. but-
we got, there's 3 of them that were up, we had actually, for when they are no longer there.
In case they have to remove somebody.
That's good.
Okay, Historic Preservation Commission, reappoint Lois Lund and Sue Mine. They volunteered to do this
They
again.
volunteered to do it.
We have a motion to reappoint those two.
I can make that motion. I
Second.
so moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Lane?
Yes.
Stankin? Yes. Slater? Yes. Baldwin? Huss?
Yes.
Okay,
Done here.
now,
Can you just take a quick break while I go grab some? Who are the other members? Dan Frisbee, Johnson, those two.
Charlie Person, Kay Montana.
Who are the last two?
Charlie and Kay Montana.
Aren't there some actually?
There is 7.
Is Mary Lynn
And
on?
Mary Ellen. Yeah.
someone's doing a long time. Okay, CDI budget request, this must be Emily.
This is Emily. Emily's going to talk to us a little bit about the budget request from CDI. It's basically going to be for 2 items as far as budget request goes. It'll be $5,000 for website enhancements, $1,000 to match a grant for advertising. This would just, it would be proposed as print advertising. That's somewhat up in the area because the applications come out here in a couple of weeks. We haven't prepared our application yet. But, Emily?
So did everybody receive that note in their packet that I
Yep,
had written?
there was, that email was in the packet about the website.
Okay. I mean, I can quickly recap that, but I guess more or less I'm here if y'all have questions about that. I guess the website came up in all of our discussions, both on the marketing committee side and the city, the community club side, in terms of what an improved website, an enhanced web presence could do so that both the community club and the city at large. I guess, as you all know, and maybe Tony, you familiarize or Scott, how many years ago the initial site came online?
2007.
Okay, so roughly 4 years ago. And that was our first one presence of the community, right?
Yeah, kind of. We had a little something beforehand, but not much.
It was a one page.
Oh, okay, okay. I guess what I wanted to say about the current site is, I mean, it very much serves the purpose of a website. However, there's a lot of things, obviously technology advances quickly, but there's a lot more that we can do now that I think we can make an investment now that can really help us long-term in the future for a couple of reasons. I think all of the information essentially came online very well, but now we really need to focus on usability in terms of organizing the information. I don't know if anyone went to the website before this meeting, but I wish I could pull it up, but there's a couple of pages that, for example, the page that houses all of our businesses in town on it. In my mind, probably one of the most crucial pages on the website, because if people are coming to our community, they're looking at where they're going to do business, whether that's where they're going to stay, shop, eat, what have you. This page, again, it does a good job of getting the information on the website, but it's basically a scroll down laundry list of businesses that makes it pretty difficult for the user to find information quickly. They can find it if they've got a lot of time. But I think more and more what we're seeing is that people don't have a lot of patience on the website. I'm sure some of you are the same way, just online in general. Like you kind of want to get on, get your information, and get off. And so we really need to deliver a better user experience, in my opinion, because all in all, I guess the point of this conversation is just this is our first impression with everybody. I would say, maybe not everybody, but I would say 95% of consumers at some point in their travel plans use the web. And so I would say probably 4 in every 5 people, that's the first place that they go to look for information. And so we really need to knock their socks off when they come to our website and have their first contact with Lakeview, because we only get that one shot in many cases. You know, I know that we've made, as both a city council and a community, a lot of recent investments in marketing. In my mind, this is probably the best investment you can make in terms of the longevity of your investment. I mentioned this in my email, but you know, you can pay, you know, you're going to possibly commit $1,000 to a print advertisement, which is great, but print comes and goes, and people have an interaction with it, and then it goes to the side. The web, one of my other big pushes here on the web is marketing messages that can stay there for a very, very long time. So we make that investment now, and we've got a marketing tool that can serve us well into the future. A couple of examples, and I think I put this in my email as well, but even just this past weekend, the Arctic Open event, it would be so great if we could put a little event summary of what has just happened, as well as some event photos on our website, so people could interact with that, could see what happened. Maybe people couldn't come and they want to see what it was all about. Maybe people did come and they want to see kind of what we captured and share it with their friends. Right now, we're sort of scrambling for tools to share that information. Like Tony and a couple of others do a really good job of utilizing a Facebook page, but not everyone is on Facebook, and Facebook is really cluttered. And so there's other examples I shared in this, like I think I threw out an example of Kathy's Corner receiving some press for their pie, or whatever it is. This is our place as a community to archive all of this information, so people come to interact with us, and it's not just Lakeview, we have a lake, we have all these businesses. They can literally look back in the archives of all of this news that we have received and get our story. I mean, and it's such an affordable way in the long term to do that, because the web can just have all of this evergreen content. I mentioned in here PR work. Public relations press outreach is a really time-intensive process for me and all of the other volunteers. It would be great, again, to be able to house a bunch of photos and information on the web, so we could call up a newspaper reporter or send out an email, press release, and direct them to our website. Right now we do not have that capability. We have to do everything manually and give them information. Event calendar, again, we're making investments, high time investments, as well as some monetary investments in events. And right now the event calendar, again, it's a good start, but I would encourage people to look at it and see that it could be very much improved. It sort of looks like a business outlook calendar, and it's very hard to display any sort of photos or quality event information on that calendar. And so when we're promoting these events and people are speaking that information, we don't have a really great tool to follow through with them on. Business directory, I mentioned that, as I think most of you know, we're making a really big push with the Lakeview Community Club this year to get more members, not only business members, but residential members. I really see, there's two functionalities to the website I see. One would be the consumer side, talking about why Lakeview is a great place to come and visit, possibly live and relocate a business to. But the other side of it is communicating with our current stakeholders here, businesses and residents alike. So I really see a website as not just advertising, for lack of a better word, to the outside, but communication on the inside. It can be an information portal or a hub, if you will, to share a lot of information with our volunteers, but also our business community. It's such an efficient way to communicate. We're really trying to avoid doing a lot of mailings and things of that nature. It's such an efficient way to communicate with our businesses on a website like this. And again, going back to the business directory, it's so important that we feature all of our businesses in a really streamlined way on that directory, link people to their websites, their Facebook pages if they have them, make sure the phone number and all the information is up to date, addresses. Unfortunately businesses do come and go, and it's hard to maintain a site like that. And I guess that would be my last comment, would be the maintenance part of it. CMS technology. I am not very familiar. Scott might be able to speak to this a little bit with the current site in terms of the back end CMS, meaning content management system. Again, I know those have come a really long way in the last 4 or 5 years, and that is so crucial in allowing Scott and Kay, myself, other volunteers, whoever that may be, to update the site. The quicker and easier that back end system is for people to use, the better website we're going to have. And again, you may have gone on the current website and seen some event announcements up there that may or may not be outdated, or might not be as prominent or newsy, I guess, as they could be. If you've got the right CMS technology, literally you can go in, I've done this in past lifetimes, is go in every other day and take 5 minutes out of your day as opposed to 50 updating a website, and it's just more efficient for everybody. Again, sort of thinking long term. I know this is a somewhat of an investment at this point, but I guess I really believe if we do it right this time in terms of taking advantage of the latest technology and keeping in mind all of these different audiences, I think it could be a really good long-term investment on all of your parts. So,
and if I could just I wish I would have brought my presentation that I had done in 2006 to the council to get the first project going, because I did have sort of a current view of what our website was at that time, some comparative websites of different lakes, regions, cities, towns, and areas. And I know it may seem like it's pretty quick that we're doing this update again and it's costing a lot of money, but where we started from to where we ended up with that project, we literally, all I can think of is like stuffing 100 pounds of potatoes in like a 5-pound sack, because we knew we had like $2,100 is I think all we spent, and we put so much information on there, and we knew it was not going to be the end all be all, because I'm an anti-scroller. I think anybody scrolls more than twice, you're losing them. They're not going to look for the information any further. And there are pages that you scroll and scroll and scroll, but we sacrificed usability to just get it out there. So we made the choice between, do we just leave it off, or do we at least get it on there, and if somebody's really, really anxious, they'll find it. So that was a huge leap. We knew that wasn't going to be, the end of the project, if you will, on the website. Secondly, not only has technology changed in that 5 period of time, but as Emily kind of alluded to, user conveniences and user experiences and the skills of our end users have changed so dramatically. If you think back to 5 years ago, I bet there's plenty of people 5 years ago did not have a computer, have a computer today and use it every day. So just the whole presence of the web and internet in our lives has changed so dramatically. Most of the time now, people are only using their handhelds. So how would you like to see our site today on a handheld? Your little finger would break trying to scroll on some of those pages, So it really is time, and I know it's a lot of money. It's an estimate. I don't know that we really know for sure it's going to cost $5,000, but I would say, given the types of things we want to be able to do, and do it right and build a foundation and not have to come back in 4 or 5 years and ask, for 10 grand to do it again, we really want to make sure that we make the right investment in the development company, we make the right investment in the technologies and the tools and the training and the tools on the back end to make sure that we have a platform that we can continue to enhance and grow. And I could go on for a lot of time about this, but I just wanted to get some perspective on, why we did it then. We didn't spend a lot of money, but we took a huge leap then. And I think, what we spent was so much time just coming up with content. I mean, just so much volunteer time and Scott's time working on that content. I don't think there's a ton of content work to be done now. It's just getting it in the right spots and making it more accessible and making user experience better. So, it can be tremendously improved, and so much from an interactive perspective and getting people engaged and involved and wanting to come back to the website, not just for the first time they come, but that they want to come back and get more, learn more, see more. So it could be a great, valuable tool.
And I do think it's largely a technology investment that we're making. I mean, there will be a huge time investment as well on behalf of some of us and volunteers. But I think, just on a personal note, in my experience, I think the best success I've seen with somebody having a successful long-term website and not having to come back every 3 to 4 years to change it is really shifting the model so we are more in control of the content, as opposed to having somebody build all the content for us and then we have very little control over changing it. If we can really make our site center around photos, a huge asset of ours, which we're going to grow, but our 4 seasons message is very important to us to try to bring people here all year round. Photos is what's going to do that. If we can emphasize photos, an event calendar, some of that content that we can put on there ourselves that won't be static and hard to manipulate once this is built, that's really what is going to poise us for a successful long-term investment, I believe. But that is a definite shift from the technology that we have that we're using right now.
Very little that can be updated today that you don't have to go back and basically pay to have done.
Right. Just throw this out as the other side that is really not talked about much at all, is the fact that this is our city government website too. And for what we can use that for, we do at least direct people there for information about the community. There are permit applications, that type of stuff. If people want to see our code, the code is on there. So for what little type of e-government stuff we do, this is the site that we send folks to.
My only question is, we use what, hotel, motel money and lost money?
Excuse me. Within that draft budget, this was all proposed to be from hotel, motel money for marketing and community betterment. So, having said that, that utilizes most of that, the 25% of that funds that is set aside. And so then, in order to do that, we have to pay our commitment for Emily's service out of someplace else, which was proposed in the draft to be out of the electric fund.
I guess I'm not the computer genius or anything of that coming from there, but from where I work, the company where I work.
You would hope that you could save some money on the print side if we make this electronic investment. Right now, I'm not super comfortable telling people to go to our website for that information, to be honest. But, yeah, effectively that could also save us money in a couple of other areas, I guess.
The cable's doing updates ours, she puts stuff in there.
Again, just realize this is how the website is updated right now. That Kay can go in and change things on the event calendar. Figured out how to take some PDF files on and off, and you can update those, but it's always a different link you gotta click on them. And she can change the front page so that we can put the new information or the new event on the front page, but it's always in a certain spot, like on the lower left-hand part of it, where you can't. It's not on the original screen view, so that's one of those deals where people got to scroll down in order to see it. So just not an ideal situation the way things are.
And I mentioned this too, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time probably, but we need to train people to use our website as a content information source. Right now, I don't know, I mean, I'm glad that we update the events such as that, but I really don't know why people would come to our website to get that information, because it always looks like it's the exact same. If you go to the site, there's not a different picture, there's not different, it's always the exact same static image. I mean, even just changing the picture every couple weeks to get people to think, oh, I wonder what picture, I mean, they might check that out. But it's almost like we need to train people to utilize the website, and Scott makes a good point, even for city information. I mean, I don't know how much we necessarily want to automate, but we can just train businesses and our residents and consumers to visit that page often for updates, as opposed to mailing things, or, you know, even for the newsletters. I think it's good that we mail those out, but we should honestly have an archive of those newsletters that go out every month online, and direct people to that on the website, and just train people to constantly be coming back for new information. Right now, that's just not.
So this is what we're gonna do, is try to modernize our site. That's basically what we're gonna do.
Make it more user-friendly, yeah.
Well, I like user-friendly.
So who's gonna be the person who decides this is what we want?
I think we just listened to them.
It'll be a committee, yeah, I mean,
In terms of the site.
because, you know, I think especially for like the community club stuff, I mean, right now it's just a list of businesses. I would personally like it to be a community club section, you know, and so obviously then the community club would.
I just don't want this to be something Scott has to spend
Oh,
3
no.
days working
No,
on.
3 days? Oh my God, we probably spent 6
Scott only
months.
has 3 days left. Agenda for the year.
No, it'll be a lot of volunteer time and Emily's time and Scott's time. I mean, I'm not gonna say that's not gonna be Scott's time, but it was a big project before. That's why I'm saying, when I talked about content development earlier, it was us putting the content together and just drafting it and reading it and reviewing it and editing it and all of that, which I don't know that we're gonna have to do a ton of that now, but still, just to lay it out and organize it and storyboard it and all those types of things, and just from a design concept, I mean, it is a process. It's not gonna happen in a week. I mean, by no means, and it will be volunteer work.
But when you look at how this is a really a good example of how we would want an issue to work through our new marketing structure. So we still have this CDI group that is responsible for a lot of the marketing activities, okay? But they serve underneath the umbrella of the community club. So it's one of these instances where we have the CDI group doing a lot of the legwork, certainly reporting regularly to the community club about what's going on.
Have we got any more questions for Emily?
How'd you do golfing?
I just took pictures.
I don't think so. I saw your car still parked on Main Street. I think you did pretty good.
Oh, you mean after golf?
That's it.
Okay, so what's the council wanna do? We're gonna move on.
I think we should proceed it. I stopped out. I don't know, that's my opinion.
You're gonna market the town, nobody else is going to. That's what I think. If we don't do it, it's not gonna happen.
I guess I would just ask the council what you want to do. You want to have a separate motion on this issue now, or the other,
Just put it in the budget.
it's in the budget, and we're ready to have expanded budget discussion here in Lakeland.
So just a little bit of clarification then, with where these funds are coming from. I mean, is there any money in this fiscal year, or would this all literally just really be available after July 1?
Okay, so it'd be budgeted for after July 1. There is hotel motel funds in the account now. It's going to be, tell you it's $1,300, but the next time it rolls around, it'll be maybe $3,000.
So the project could get going,
It could start.
yeah.
We don't wanna start in July, half the summer's gone. I would think. We won't market the town year round.
It will take some time.
Oh, yeah, I
for
understand.
sure. So, I just kind of want to have an idea when.
You guys just wanna wait till we go through the budget now, and you wanna? It's up to you guys.
Also, just a clarification too, on that $1,000, that's a match for that grant. If we're not awarded the grant, then that money wouldn't necessarily have to be budgeted.
Well, or it would, it certainly
Budgeted, but
wouldn't be spent, you know, maybe it's still hanging out there if we come up with
for other print
like
advertisements.
type of print opportunity, I think it would be appropriate to have council approval before we do
I would
anything
think
else other than,
definitely, yeah.
other than match a grant. But that grant is the Western Iowa Tourism Region grant. There. We applied for this one a couple of years ago and did not get it. On having some sort of coordinated print advertising campaign. We've done a lot more legwork now and have a marketing plan in place. And we certainly can show that we've done our homework on it, hopefully, and put together an application that's better received.
I guess I gotta ask Tim, you spent a lot of time, I shouldn't say a lot of time, but you know your way around the computer and stuff like that.
Okay, it's your story, you tell it anyway.
But seriously,
I know how to do eBay, I'm really good at eBay.
well, that's more than I can do, that's why I'm just, you know,
I've been on our website a lot of times. It's smarter than I am. That's all I can tell you. So that's why a lot of this goes over my head, because it does everything I want it to do, but
Yeah.
I'm not a computer literate person either, so I'm sure there are things that if I really knew what I was looking for, I could probably zip through
But you
fast.
shouldn't have to look so hard. That's probably the real point of it. Even, you know, the most novice to the most experienced shouldn't have to look very hard to find what they want and more.
I know I found my phone number.
And it was right?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
No, we're just gonna bring this up when we go through the budget stuff.
Okay.
Everybody with that?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
thanks, Alan.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
You're doing a good job.
Guys,
I now know where Lake View is.
I hope so.
Oh, goodness. Request for funding new opportunities. I'll be gentle, Scott.
We get a request for new opportunities for funding every year. Within the council memo, I told you what the city has done for funding in the past. Sometimes we have for the past couple of years, we've now granted funding to new opportunities. This year, when they sent us the mailing, they actually sent us a little note that said if we're gonna say no, please check the no and send it back, so they at least know where it's in. The mayor has strong feelings.
Real strong.
But, you know, all that I'd say about new opportunities, you utilize some of their services, and they do the heating assistance, where they actually administer the heating assistance money that comes to our utility, and then they also do drug and alcohol treatment stuff, and we know the folks in our community use that. Should we have to fund a lot of that? That's open to your interpretation, I think.
how is it funded just overall? I mean, is this how the organization is funded, or?
They get state money, federal money.
That's, you know, say this, of course, that, like heating assistance, that's federal money that comes down to them. And pay that out, but then you pay so much for administration.
And we found out, if we didn't give them money, our heating system still got given to the people that needed it. So I always thought that the taxpayers give us the money to spend it wisely. If they wanted to give it to those people, they would give it to themselves. I still think it's our place to do that. I think we ought to give them what we give them last
Spoken
year.
like a...
You turned into a politician.
That's pretty good the way you did that.
I think we ought to give them what we gave them last year as well.
I think as tight as things are right now, we should pass. That's where I'm at.
I'll go along with that.
Everybody on board?
I don't hear anybody wanting to give it away.
Do you have a motion to deny, or are you fine with nothing?
I'll gladly sign the paper tomorrow.
No?
No.
Okay, I got it. Check the box that says no.
Yeah. Okay, approve the collective bargaining tentative agreement. Why do you get, and then get a medal for negotiating?
I tell you what,
Let's go, guys.
They did a nice job. So just really the two parts of this tentative agreement with the union. The first part deals with wages, and it's 2% each July for a 3-year length of the contract. And then the second point deals with comp time. And this is something that we had asked for about being able to limit some amounts of time off, so that folks are still allowed to accrue up to 40 hours of comp time during any given year, but they can only accrue 40, so they can't get up to 40, use 2 days, accrue more, get back up to 40. But the other thing that happens then is at the end of June, if they have any time in their comp time bank, it's paid out to them. Okay, and that's just an issue as far as, again, us having real long-term employees have lots of time off. And it's probably to the city better than to have folks around here, on the job and pay them that instead. So those are the 2 points. The third point that I wrote down there is very significant, but it's no change. It's no change to health insurance. That was really, really the selling point to the union on this issue. They certainly would have proposed higher wages, but they do realize that they get no change to health insurance for 3 years is really quite a benefit in itself. So they had reached tentative agreement. I couldn't say all, but at least a majority of the union locals members have a tentative agreement, and they're just awaiting action by the council.
Anybody has any questions on the agreement, they'll be on the committee next time. It's a treat. Is there a motion to approve the bargaining agreement?
I'll make it.
A second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's me.
I can do it again. Us,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Overmont.
Yes.
I will say, if you're on the committee, the mayor does buy the pizza.
Yeah. It was,
Get him off the pizza.
yeah. And I was
We were
relatively
gonna
quiet.
take you to Jack's Pizza, you went over to
No.
the grocery store.
I went down the street together. I even bought the union one.
You are a nice
And you
guy.
didn't spit in there?
No, I didn't.
I don't think so.
No,
You wouldn't pick it up.
I never thought of it. Okay, garbage rates.
All right, so we had talked in months past about the need to raise garbage rates. And as we discussed in all of our budget committee meetings, based upon the existing revenues and expenses, we would actually end this next budget year with a negative balance in the garbage fund. We had not taken any action on any of these garbage rates pending what the county was going to do with their charges. There's really 2 types of charges that come from the county landfill, either per capita assessment, and the city pays per capita assessment. There's also a tonnage fee for the total tons of garbage that's delivered up there. So in Lakeview's case, the tonnage fee is paid by the contractor. Okay, so the county has decided then they would leave the assessment the same. The tonnage cost goes up $2 per ton. Any other things of note there?
No, I actually made the motion for that one. So, I don't know what,
But I guess my only other question then is, what's the future look like though as far as year 2 and 3?
it's probably gonna keep steadily going up. There's a few people on there that just wanted to keep it the same, and I feel like we'd be in the situation here that we are, or there that we are here, where you don't go, you don't have an increase in so many years, and all of a sudden you gotta raise it $5 a ton or $8 a ton, where here it's more of a user fee if you raise it, per ton instead of per assessment.
Did you hear a click when you turn it down? If you heard it click, it'll shut off here.
Use your 9 millimeter.
We just got this place fixed up.
I know it. But I will say, I don't know if my numbers, I'm pretty sure for the next sale we're gonna make, which is anticipated to go 4 years, like $275,000. So, it's not cheap to throw stuff away. It's cheap to recycle either way. Prices are gonna go up, they're gonna keep going up.
There won't be something that ends up with a negative balance.
Yeah, at the end of this upcoming year, so. Showing you what the annual expenses and revenues are, it's on page 3 in the memo. we're assuming we buy garbage bags every other year. So this would show a half order garbage bag each year. Expenses of $107,000 and revenues of $106,000. So if we were to consider this 50 cent per bag increase, that could generate about $10,000, $4,500 if the number of bags is roughly the same. I would anticipate the number of bags would drop down just a hair.
I'd rather you have per monthly basis, this way the use would be again, where you throw out the tank of garbage, you're paying more. Get a foot still.
You're kidding.
So in order to increase the 50 cents per bag, we have to,
We do have to have an ordinance.
we have to bring up an ordinance next time.
Yep.
What's everybody want to do? 50 cents?
Are they now 10 bags in a roll, $10?
Yep.
Instead of 15?
Yeah, and that would still continue to be the only way you can get them is if it only depends. We get that request from time to time.
Also,
Would you like to have a
we won't bring up an ordinance next time.
formulated ordinance on 50 cents a bag? We're gonna make that.
Second? I'll second. Roll call.
Us? Lane?
Yes. Yep. Okay, we're down to budget.
Budget. Well, so we got together with each of the committees and had largely the same discussion with each of the committees about the budget, any problems that we were having, discussed the problem with the garbage fund, with the water fund. We generally had a really extended discussion about the general fund and what the status is there. Really unknown as far as the Wall Lake Police contract, which is that $42,000 represents. But then the other thing that we talked about in general, it was that list of options for reducing the general fund. In your city council packet, that was on page 10. We had reviewed that page in the budget packet where it was talking about the general fund and said that right now it's $2,700 to the good. Revenues exceed expenses by $2,700 with really those two issues. The first issue being the Wall Lake contract. You know, this assumes those revenues are in there. And then the other thing being that $10,000 loan payment back to the general fund for sales tax. So even if we do have that Wall Lake Police contract, you know, it really doesn't cash flow itself. It only covers, revenues cover expenses only because of this transfer back in to pay that internal debt. So it's not, you know, it's not sustainable in that regards for many, many years to keep, ultimately, it starts to bring down cash reserves in the general fund, and there's not that much there. So, if I kind of throw that out there to you, as far as going over this list of general fund savings, anything that is appealing to you as far as general fund savings? Is there
Well, I think
anything
we
that's
can't
off the
snap
table?
2 lifeguards and do not hire lifeguards, we can't do both.
You cannot, that's true.
I think the fire department would have said that, I mean, for what you're gonna get out of it.
It's $488, is that the fire department one?
Yeah.
Not more hardship than anything.
We're the only state that has what lifeguards, state park, state park.
Price. I don't know if the state's passed any, but I don't know if we're the only, municipal one either.
We went through this a couple of years ago. There's no, I thought we were the only one that had lifeguards.
What would we do if we didn't do lifeguards?
Just put a rope up.
To just put the ropes out and not put any rafts out or anything.
The rafts can't be on there, they don't have.
I have a mother of a small child, I think, I think
We didn't have lifeguards, we actually forced the parents to be careful.
Or let them drown. I think it's part of having a lake, I really do. I don't want to get rid of the beach.
Cut back on the HPC budget.
What's the HPC budget?
Historic Preservation Commission, they've had a $3,000 budget for a long time and generally don't spend all of it, but they transfer what's left over maybe at the end of the year to one of their projects.
Reduce the meeting expenses, that's just when I have coffee at the coffee.
No, it has to do with the meeting expenses being legal. Some of that's taken care of through, just by the fact that they have webinars, that type of stuff anymore. No mileage expense. We ought to go ahead and reduce that. Just watch the type of meetings that I was able to go to. The fact of the matter is that things are generally pretty busy around here and we can't get away from it. So, we don't do that.
Cut back on staffing one during the day.
We need to have that discussion with Ruth.
She says no, so I say yes.
We're looking for your input.
Jim, no, I can't hear you.
We can't even
we can't hear each other, so.
Come up here, we're cutting your budget, you better get up here. You ain't getting no window.
Comes up here.
You didn't say that on my TV, it's all right.
Nice. You want to come up here so you can hear?
I know.
See, that sucker may not shut off because it's blowing the whole there. It kicked on, but the water's not.
There's a break or something.
Yeah, he's gonna be quiet.
But after all.
Hard enough to get the click.
That must be a 1917 thermostat.
Came over on the Mayflower.
Two people on 8 and 4, right? And then one on that.
Okay, there's one option, like, maybe we want to just close at 5 o'clock on Monday and Tuesday nights down there. But I don't want to go to one per day, one a day. With that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is when we do all of our major
What time
power
is it?
washing. There's 5 bathrooms, the shelter house, all that kind of stuff. That's what we get done in the beginning of the week so that we can,
What would you do how long would you normally be open? 9?
well, on Monday and Tuesday night, we are, by the time we leave at 4 or 5, and if the next person comes on, and by 7 o'clock, if nobody has showed up, I just tell them to close up. Because you can sit there until 8 o'clock, and then maybe you have 2 people come to go. Well, $8 doesn't cut it if somebody's sitting there for 2 or 3 hours. But we usually do that on Tuesday and Wednesday night, or Monday and Tuesday night. Sometimes on Sunday night, if the weather is not good, we close up early. You go home. You kind of just have to play it by ear.
If we closed early, and I come in there to rent a spot, and I close at 5:30, I could still get a spot, right?
You
Just pay
can,
the next day.
but that's another reason that you have to be on your toes in the morning. You have to make sure who's in there that has paid for the night before. prior to holiday weekends, you have to be down there and make sure that everybody parks in these areas the way they belong, so that we don't have these big ruckuses again. It's just a lot of things to watch and take care of. The shelter house got used 90 times last summer during the time we were cleaning it, so there's a lot of stuff we have to take care of.
What about the mini golf cleaning?
That, I suppose we could do, I would hate to see Kelly lose her job, because she's really depending on that for the summer. But Kelly is one that was very easily, the lifeguards were always a little touchy on wanting to help out, like during carnival or on weekends and nights if we needed somebody extra in the concession stand. She was always the one that was willing to come in and work.
We need a little therapy for the lifeguards or something?
That's just been an every year thing. You just, and I think before we could even make a decision on a lot of this stuff, we have to see if we're even gonna get enough lifeguards again this year.
As of now, very much there's 2 weeks left for applications yet. We got one turned back in and another one who worked for us last year turned hers back in, but said she's really limited on hours, so it's kind of 1.5 that we
Not even 1.5.
that we have turned in. You know, it's
We've struggled in the past to get lifeguards. If you can't get enough, then you just will not have any.
You can't. No, Kelly's not a lifeguard. I hate to see any of these young kids lose their job, because a lot of them depend on, this is their summer job, but I realize we have to do what we have to do, but if we gotta do something like that, do some cutting,
We're gonna do like everybody else, you have to cut your overtime 10%, shut your vehicles off.
okay. So I can't use the golf cart anymore?
Don't even use golf cart. You just have to push it.
Hey, that's happened, especially when I didn't check the gas. We can do the 2 lifeguards on weekends, I don't think that would be a big problem. I don't know about the parks employees, start them April 1st.
But isn't there a lot of stuff that has to get done?
Not this year, there's not.
Does it?
They got, what they normally do, John, when the season starts, they usually work on picnic tables and stuff like that they can work inside the garage where they can't see out, you know? And
I was for that.
I'd be careless with it. Although I wouldn't be in that garage, I get claustrophobic. Anyway, you know, it was things that they could do inside when the weather was still bad, but they got all the picnic, it was such a nice fall, they got all the picnic tables and everything fixed last winter, so, you know, weather permitting, it's entirely up to you guys. But I think sometimes, depending on what needs to be done in the spring, I don't know if it's necessary to bring on in March 1st.
Last year, I'm just thinking about last year, weren't they doing this?
Yeah.
They were doing
Yeah,
the
you're right.
down here,
Yeah,
that
6 for months.
first month, yeah, 6,
And there was a lot of sticks last year we don't have this year.
well,
So we really can't do nothing about lifeguards, we don't know if we're gonna have any in the first place. But you still need the people, and you still gotta clean the mini golf, because the mini golf makes us money. We're gonna have to freeze Whitey's library budget.
Okay.
Freeze and HUD?
The library just got froze.
And there again, if we wouldn't have lifeguards, then I darn sure would want to keep Kelly on. Just for the extra help that we needed.
in the concession
Because-
stand, or just
Yeah.
in the concession stand?
And for the mini golf, because she's very good on that end with that. And then rent paddle boats.
Somebody's gotta be there for that.
We have to have lifeguards. You're gonna have a beach and sell food and...
But if we can't get anybody to apply for lifeguards, it's a moot point.
It gets
Well,
tougher every year.
you've had 2 weeks.
There's been a couple of years we've struggled to get it.
we've struggled.
Struggled.
Don't they usually come over from the morning, people want
If they don't get the job, Wall Lake, they'll come here.
Some of them come over here as second choice, and but like I said, it's hard to say because there is still 2 weeks left in the application time. things seem to roll in right there at the end again with lifeguards, or some kids will realize we don't have enough lifeguards, and you get new ones who will go take the class.
The only other option we'd have is if there were just 2 that did apply, you know they wouldn't want to work 7 days a week. No, well, because if they work 4 days straight from 1 to 5, or 1 to 6, they're stressed out.
Oh, shit. Yeah, overtime.
Yeah, but, then we could probably do something there too, just not have lifeguards on Monday and Tuesday, the slowest days or something like that, and
So do you have your lifeguard license?
if somebody goes under, I call Jerry and tell him that's where the bubbles are out there. That's my life-saving experience.
You feel a minute, Gary.
And we call the fire department and say, bring them to us.
With their new motor on their boat.
Yeah.
So can we actually do anything about that until we find out if we're gonna have a lifeguard?
Well, from a budget perspective, you don't need to make these decisions. Don't need to be decided just right now. We do need to finalize what our printed budget's going to be. Just when you think about this as far as printing our budget, just think that we're going to hold a public hearing on the budget that will say it'll have this number of dollars of expenditures, okay? That number can't be increased, but it can always go down. So if you decide after the fact that you want to reduce some expenses, we can internally, you just reduce the expenses.
Okay.
Are we getting paddle boats for sure?
It's in the budget to get them.
Pass the budget first.
Well, we didn't think you had enough to do with the result, get paddle boats.
That's fine.
That way if someone's drowning, she can...
I don't think my legs would take me that far either.
Might need 2 people working so you both can paddle.
Don't say it until you try.
Boat motor.
Try. Take one for the team.
Yeah, but everything starts going round if I just walk out on the dock, so I'm not good on the water.
Okay. All right. I'd actually look at the top 2 there though, I mean, April 1st, March 1st, November 15th to November 30th. You know, that's 6
months, yeah, then your librarians, that's 7,000, that's what we need.
That's a start. I mean, I don't know what everybody else is thinking, but.
Yeah,
We have 7.5-month workers. I mean,
basically what it,
that are still earning time off, right? I mean, discretionable, how's that called?
Unemployment.
No, that discretionary,
that's at North 9 months. maybe
Yeah.
some more, But
that,
And they won't get available for that if they don't do 9 months.
okay. I just want to be sure,
Well,
looking at
it,
all that though.
I'm sure it would come back to the council as an issue.
Oh, sure. But if we're strapped for cash, we know where it's gonna go.
The other issue too would be this police department thing, about no scheduled overtime for vacations, and you go to 12-hour shifts, so, talk about that a little bit there, chief.
I don't know if I bring up that question, I gotta be on a committee next year.
You're exempted.
It's something that should have been negotiated because according to our contract, you can't eliminate it because I can't. The police department is set up different. The holiday falls on a Saturday, the police department holiday is a Saturday, where all other city employees are Friday. So one of 2 things needed to be done. Either the police department should be the same as all other employees, or what they say is you can't alter your schedule to eliminate overtime. So if 3 guys are scheduled for a holiday, you have to let them work. Nobody's going to give that up. They get 20 hours pay for working 8 hours, and not going to give it up. So our only choice is to say, this is how we're going to do it. And I've talked to all 3 of them now. So far, none have a problem by doing it. So as long as they don't file agreements, it'll be all right.
But I guess just my point there, Ted, is that I figured this for vacation time, not for holidays.
We already do it for vacation.
So
And we talked to that union guy about doing that, and he said we couldn't negotiate that out, wasn't it?
about changing work schedule.
Right, to avoid overtime.
Doesn't the city though have the right to determine what the workload's gonna be? Isn't there any language like that in the contract?
5 straight days of 8 hours.
My suggestion is we do it and see if they can.
Yeah. But, and that's why I focus on vacations more than
Yeah.
more than the holidays, is because you're not altering anybody's schedule. What you're doing is saying everybody essentially works kind of your same shift, but you're responsible for 12 hours and then 4 hours of that is on call. And like Ted says, we've done that before.
And the way we do it now, Sunday is the worst day because Mike and Lanny are the only two that work Sundays. So if one of them take a Sunday off, we either schedule somebody to cover that or they're on a 24-hour shift. And especially this time of year, we just do a 24-hour. They're just on call and they work the hours and they're on call the rest. And we've always done it that way, so they're fine with that. So I would really like to try the holiday one because I think it's really a waste. We're wasting a lot of money paying 3 guys to work and a holiday that we don't need 3 guys working. We should run 2 hours, 2 12-hour shifts with a contract.
Scott, isn't there a process when you know, a notice before we make a change?
Boy, Aaron, I don't know. I'd say no, Aaron, because you just simply can't change it. I mean, it's just in the contract.
But if Ted's talked to him and think we'd work it out,
I think we just go with.
work it internally. We can try it. We can't lose too much.
Let's not to fight over who takes what holidays.
I think we'll work that out.
But it's, of course, partly up to the chief then too, because a lot of those holidays fall during the summertime when we would need that third person out anyway, so.
What's the word from that lake?
No word.
Up from Wall Lake, they have a council meeting again next week. And they met a couple weeks ago and tabled the issue, and then they got a meeting again next Monday.
So they're just delivering. They didn't give an inkle?
No, it was quickly tabled, I guess.
So you think we're gonna, everybody wanna do the top 2 cut back? Yeah?
This is all contingent upon that, or we would do it anyway?
It's a huge difference if Wall Lake drops out.
Yeah, no, I understand, I just want to know what we're agreeing to. Is that this is contingent upon that contract, or if this is going to be done regardless of that contract?
I think we need to do it regardless.
I agree, yes.
Because we're right now playing, with that, we're still playing with only $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
We need a little more buffer than that, I think.
I think that's,
I would agree to the first 2 regardless. I mean,
Yeah.
then you get beyond that, and it gets a little
Yeah.
dicier.
well,
Well, especially the police department one.
Well, yeah, with Ted's discretion on how I want to handle
Ted's
that,
got,
yeah.
that's, you know, it's real easy for us to sit here, but he's
Yeah.
got to sell the deal on it, I guess.
Again, I don't want to sound too hard either, but those numbers are from vacation time, not for holidays.
Yeah.
So,
So if we scratch the top 2, any others that people wanna get rid of?
I mean, I think if the Historic Preservation Commission don't use their, I mean, it's kind of like use it or lose it, right? I mean, regardless of the circumstances, unless they have, you know, specific earmark for that money, which they may, I mean, there's a lot of change going on there. I don't know.
well, and what they've, just the past couple of years, what they had done is set aside some of their funds for microfilm project, and helped out with the microfilm project. Or it seems like maybe the past 2 years, it's been anything that they had left over has went to, I think, the log cabin to help pay down the debt on the log cabin. That's getting pretty close to paid off. I think it's like $1,200 now.
Well, and they have another
You gotta have
fundraiser,
another
so
fundraising.
in theory that will get paid off after Memorial Day. Close?
Close.
Do you wanna check that too? Wait, who's
I
that?
mean, I would just
I think you're right.
confirm that, but if they're not going to use it, then there's no reason to continue budgeting that money.
And then for sure to reduce the meeting expense ones, Scott said you could just do that.
Yeah.
And the library budget, if you could reconsider maybe putting back in, did they say they're not going to fund e-books?
They had not committed to that project yet. They still had a lot of questions yet about whether they could do it, how they would do it. They weren't committed to it yet.
I personally would not like to see that budget cut. I mean, I think that their budget is pretty slim anyway. I mean, but, you know, if we have to, we have to, but that would, you know, that and the fire department and, you know, roof staffing, those definitely would not be areas I would want to see.
How much money extra did we put last year into, with the remodel of it,
That library?
with the library?
$5,000.
The city did 10,000.
10,000 plus what we gave,
Plus
Plus-
the normal budget.
yeah, so we gave
Plus the
what?
normal budget.
And manpower,
And the city guys were doing stuff.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from the county whether they're gonna up their budget.
I called the auditor and asked him about that, and they did not have an answer for us yet. You know, he had penciled in an increase, but they couldn't commit to that yet.
Well, I'll tell everybody else that wasn't at our little budget committee meeting, Jerry and I were there. My feeling is if nobody else is raising the libraries, then I don't wanna raise the libraries. Because I don't feel that it's fair that the city raises our percentage and everybody else sits pat. It's everybody's library, not just ours. And I don't have a problem with giving the money, it's just kind of a principle thing with me. I just
everybody
can't
has
see
to
it.
cut back
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
and everybody has to pay.
Well,
I think if they're all gonna cut back, and the library's already gonna lose money because they're not doing it, shouldn't all be on our back.
So that's a majority to get rid of that one for now.
I don't know that that's the case, Mayor, I think it's me that's, that way I'm not
I
sure as
saw
everybody else.
Gary have been in
Okay, well, that's right.
writing. So we'll just put it on the scratch. Is that gonna help us?
And we were okay with the 2 lifeguards on the weekend? Yeah.
We'll get them.
Yep, if we do it.
So here's what I got, is the top 3, 2 lifeguards on the weekend, HPC budget to $2,000, and reduce the meeting expenses.
On the library, isn't it?
Oh,
Don't forget that one.
Don't forget that. I've been listening to everybody. That's a start?
now, okay, so here then is my question to you about the budget document. Do you want those reflected in the budget document? Or do you want the budget document to remain the same as what the draft had been, knowing that, you know, we really don't have any intention of spending these funds, but I mean, they're there if need be, because you can't increase the expenses, but you can always decrease them.
My feeling is I would like it to be in the budget that we're gonna cut this money, because otherwise, there's nothing that makes us do.
With the 2 lifeguard thing though, you know, I mean, to me, I kind of look like worst scenario, there's none. You know, like a better scenario is that it's just the weekend. You know, even better, it's, you know, no lifeguards on Monday and Tuesdays or whatever Ruth says are lesser days. You know, but I mean, we've kind of gone one up from none to just the 2. I mean, so I would personally like to see the budget reflect something, you know, above that, and then we could, you know, lower it to 2 if we only find 2 or if that's where we want to be.
Okay.
So I think, like I said, we
Yes,
can't go up, right?
My thought on this is actually the lifeguard expense remains the same as what it was last year, less this $1,000 deduct for this staffing 2 on weekends instead of 3.
Oh, sorry, I was just
That's-
thinking there was only lifeguards on the weekend, so I was, wow, okay, got it.
So everybody's on board with that? Sounds like a plan.
13, 7. Yeah, 13,753. So that's gets us on the right side of 0 a little bit. So on general fund, and then same thing applying to utilities, especially water and sewer fund, about funding our capital funds for equipment purchases. You have a budget, the draft budget is prepared, assuming we continue to fund those capital accounts like we have went over with the next year. Any concern with that? Can you continue that? I would certainly like to see us continue to fund the accounts. You know, the question about whether you actually purchase any equipment.
But if we fund those accounts, there is no way to get that money back. Once we've said in the budget, that's where that money's going, we cannot put that back in the general fund throughout the year.
I think I disagree with it,
Well,
because,
I'm asking you.
Question, yeah.
If we don't
Okay.
spend it, why would it not be out there?
okay, you know, it's just that we're transferring money in, and by the same regards, you can transfer money out later.
So we decide in mid-July that we don't wanna buy something, we can transfer that money back into the general fund?
You know, you could, but the concept is to always have balance and always.
I understand that, Scott, what I'm saying is
If
we
need
need the
be.
money
If there was a situation where it was dire,
Yeah, when
there's
we
no
gotta
way to
have
get
it.
the money.
to pay for diesel fuel,
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure we can put that money back in.
You can.
But
The
if we
money's
would
there
decide
for-
in July we don't want to buy it, but we don't dire need of the money will stay there with the intent that there will be a future
Buy it,
purchase. It's
yeah.
just not going to be this year.
Right.
So that's kind of, I think, everybody's.
Because any major purchase, we're gonna go on it anyway.
Yeah, I guess what I wanted to make sure is, once we do this document, that that money can come back if we need it.
Sure. Yep.
In case there's a rainy day.
Yeah, we've had a couple of rainy days. Rainy days in February.
Yeah, and I guess we get down to the three items of equipment that were proposed to be purchased, a police car, vac, and a backhoe. Those are currently in the draft budget, and what would you like to do with those?
I guess I'd like to fight for that.
I think the back is something that both departments would use. There shouldn't be a whole lot of fighting over it, should there, Jack?
No,
You guys have got that all worked out.
it's there to use, I mean, we can use it, it's there. Like I said at our committee meeting, I said, you know, it's just, you know, it's what I want, what Bill wants, what Ted wants. I mean, it's, you know, and it's whatever the council decides, if they don't do anything, that's fine. If you do something, that's fine too.
But you could use that back thing over there.
Oh, yeah, we've used it.
Yeah. They could have used it out to that, almost got somebody killed because they didn't have one.
Yeah, they're sucking the holes out,
Right.
so they can find the wire.
And they drilled through a neutral and should have killed somebody, but we got lucky that day.
Yeah.
Well, I talked to the electric department guys for quite a while about it, and this is something they're really in favor of.
This is something they use a lot more than a boring machine.
Well, for what we stuck in the one we don't even own, we could have bought this one, and when we need it, we don't have it anyway, so.
And if it's ours, at least hopefully we take care of it better than, if it isn't ours, it's pretty tough to devote time to fix it or take care of it.
I think it's like Bobcat, you know, you use it a lot more, and it becomes handier, and probably saves a lot of, you know, wear and tear on your body and everything else.
So I guess we're saying leave the money in the budget, and let us know when we're ready to buy it, how much it's gonna cost, and we'll vote.
Yeah,
What'd they say, 40 grand for?
That's a guess, isn't it?
40 is the estimate.
How soon is the skid steer up for change, Jack?
Well, we just got that last June,
Okay.
so it was probably done 3.5 years.
Must be that Alzheimer's, I can't remember that far back.
Yeah. I think that's what it was, last time.
Yeah, it was like,
I thought it was.
Okay.
That was 4 years, I think. we went
Okay, well, what else do we have for budget issues?
I know Ted's interested in the vehicle for the police. I guess my own concern is I'd like to see what the heck Lloyd's gonna do. I think that's,
Well, the only thing I will tell you on that portion, if we don't get a new one, we'll re-pulling Scott's and he can have the Crown Vic. It's sitting out here in the snowbank now, it never starts, never runs, it's junk, so, but we can re-pull his and get by.
I figured out, that was easy.
Because they talked about buying a Hyundai or a Ford Fusion last time.
no, a Toyota Prius, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, Prius, yeah.
Plug her in and let her rip.
Pull the extension cord, turn on the cherry lights.
Yeah, plenty of batteries in them things.
Again, that's something I think we should leave the money in the budget, but
Oh, and
depending on
let's
what
clear
Lake does, definitely before we pull the trigger.
yeah.
Because I was told by the mayor they were gonna vote out last time, but somehow it didn't make it to that part, so.
Would they like us to come over and answer any questions that they have or concerns?
Scott didn't think I should go.
I wonder,
You probably ought to go, you probably ought not to go alone.
Oh, yeah.
Just go and not see.
I volunteered to go with him, and he said no there too.
You probably do.
I'm sure they're willing to listen, I don't know what the deal is, so.
Well, they can't go and further,
We
really,
just need to
without
know for
voting on it,
budget
right?
purposes.
Yeah.
They have to know.
I suppose they sure can, but they wouldn't be able to budget anything for themselves either, but.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sure they're just doing diligence, that they've got, look at all their options, you know. And, the thing about that is we've had a working relationship with them with other things, that we go over there with with their boom truck to help them out. With their, what else do we go over there for?
Well, electrical's probably our biggest one.
Electrical's big thing. Jack has been over there, helped them out during,
So I mean,
emergency times.
as working together as two communities, I think they would take some of that into consideration.
So, yeah, I just want them to know so we can work on the budget. That's all either yes or no. I don't know what else we
And I'd be happy to go over there, if they can get us on there, I'd be glad to go over there with the mayor, or whoever wants to go over there. Is that I mean, I'd like to see us, so we have some definite answers here.
Well, they gotta pass their budget too, so they'll make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay,
I say we just let them make their decision on their own.
okay.
So as far as our budget goes, are we ready to get the budget in a form that can be published, or still want to hold off and see what Wall Lake does on the police deal? Or just from a timing perspective, I kind of laid that out in the memo, that if you're ready to put this in the form of the budget that can go to the paper right now, we can kind of stay on schedule. We just have the public hearing during our first regular meeting in March. If you prefer to wait till after next week, we would have to have a special council meeting to pass the budget, probably on the 14th of March.
We don't need no special council meetings, it costs money. We're trying to reduce expenses.
Yes, that's true.
Well, like I said,
So you'd have to amend the budget then, or?
how would that work? Tell me the options, whether Wall Lake's in or out. What would be our plan, I guess?
So we would prepare the budget to be published. That would be the same budget as what we reviewed with these changes.
Okay.
Okay, so that says that everything looks fine so long as Wall Lake's in. But if Wall Lake is not in, from the budget perspective, I mean, these expenses have been authorized. They could be spent, but they can always be revisited by the council too. So that's the concept, that the expenses can be reduced, but they can't be increased. So from a revenue side of things, and as far as the legal budget document, it's really not, well, they just don't even hardly much care about the revenues. You don't need to amend for revenue side of revenue issues.
So there's no reason not
Print
to
it up.
print it up?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
That's one thing.
So what do we need to make a
And
motion?
we could have, the motion would be to hold public hearing on March 7th.
That was so moving.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
You should so second.
Roll call.
I'm so moved that you're so moved.
Okay, Lane,
I was so vote yes.
Steinkamp?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Us?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
We're down to the city clerk report.
Yep, that issue on the City Hall roof, that's just the answer in regards to does all of the drainage issues on the site. They kind of skirted the issue about whether they would honor their warranty. They just said they'd come back and continue to fix the problem.
I don't know, it's sounding to me like they don't want to say yes,
Yeah.
but
We gotta fix the roof, we ain't gonna have nothing there.
I'm pretty satisfied with what they said. They treated me really good on everything. Darwin's roof was almost 10 years old and they came back and fixed it for free in one spot, so.
Oh, wow. Usually they're out of business 6 months after you do something.
Well, I guess that if this is something that the council would feel comfortable with, what we would do is ask them for further solid quote on it, further solid bid. Because when they bid us, it was 15 to 20,000. So they just bid a range.
I'd say at least 50 good.
Yep. You need a motion or?
I will get a solid bid. deal on codification. You know, when you pass an ordinance, that ordinance is just here in that ordinance form that we always pass it in. It gets published in that ordinance form. But when it goes to get into the code book, of course, it's codified in that different form. We have used Iowa Codification as our codification company for, I think, decades. And the city has got to have a code that's no more than 5 years old. So our last code is a 2006 code. It's time for us to be considering this, updating this code again. It can be just as simple as have them codify all of the ordinances that we have passed so far. And we have, what I tell you, maybe 15 ordinances or something like that that need to be codified. You know, and they would codify all 15 of those, get us up to speed on everything that we've done, and get us a new, it's an ordinance adopting a new code. And basically, you get a new front cover sheet that says we now have a 2011 code. And they would do that, cost $1,000. The other option would be to have them give a complete, comprehensive update of our code so that it is up to date with any recent legislative changes. Now, there's some merit to that.
$3,500 worth of that.
That's what I was gonna say. It's gotta go a long way to make that fair.
One example I was telling Scott is, I was talking to an attorney the other day about penalties for nuisances and to abate them. If somebody doesn't abate it, then you can assess them. That price tag has gone up, but our local code hasn't, because we haven't kept up with the state, which, you know, we do once every 5 years. And it's now up to, I think, $750 for the first, and then the second is, you know, double that, or $1,750 or something like that. But I asked Scott if we had that, and we don't have that. So with the increase in the codification, I mean, I think it's worth it. I mean, you do have increases in penalties and fines that we're not getting because we're not staying updated.
And that's what they would do? That's part of this comprehensive thing, is that they would update our ordinances to change
Yes.
fines and fees
Yeah.
or whatever?
Everything that, it would be consistent with all new state regulation.
Is there $3,500 worth of fines that we're not collecting?
Have we collected any fine?
No, we don't. We haven't assessed municipal infractions for, we've done it once or twice in years, you know, we just don't generally use that. But that's another way to get at a nuisance, is not through abatement, but through fining people. You know, it's another way that we could look at it. The other thing that Aaron I thought this was a terrific idea, is that we just need to get a hold of somebody who's had a real recent codification update. And I know of a few things that we certainly need to check and make sure that ours is up to date, and we can do those ordinances locally to get ourselves up to date, and then you recodify.
So,
It may be $1,500 instead of $1,000 by the time we're done with everything, but.
yeah, I thought, you know, what we could do is talk to Sac City and Linton and Wall Lake and
I was say, ask Waldo. Yeah, see what they have to
and
say.
ask everybody, because I know that, you know, Linton has hopped on a few of our backs before.
So there would just be
They're a turd.
specific ones that we have, that we would target, that we know would be more applicable for us. And
Yeah,
we would
just
try to.
a couple things, like Aaron talked about municipal infractions, we should change the amount of the fine to be consistent with what the state code is. We have a sex offender registry, or a residency requirement thing that the state has since, has a new state law, and we should just probably rescind ours, you know. There's a couple of those things in there that we should do to maybe get updated.
So basically, between these two, you guys have an idea of what you want to do, or, I mean, I know you got to do some research, I understand that. To me, in order to do diligence.
I asked Scott if Sac City had what they did. You hadn't talked yet to their administrator?
No, not since we talked, but they have updated here within the past couple of years, so. they're a little bit more updated than what we are.
I like that option better than either of these two. I like the option.
Well, I think,
sort of
you
a
know,
middle
essentially
road
it's,
thing.
we ought to do option number one, which is $1,000 update. Just realize it'll cost a few $100s more by the time we locally make some changes and then get things recodified. Because we need to be doing that here within the next several months.
The abatement example, what is happening is companies known as TFO2 are buying properties in downtown Sac City, Lytton. No, it hasn't happened here yet, but so they buy them for back taxes and they pay maybe $10. And they're not going to move on it, they're not going to change that empty building until they start getting assessed. And their company usually that they have some money or they have a lawyer or somebody's going to respond. Otherwise, you as a city, you have to abate that. You have to get rid of it and then assess it onto their taxes and then it takes, and then you have to abate it means you have to take it down. And that's difficult sometimes, as you know.
Yeah. So do you need a motion to proceed with that?
We're going to check with some other communities. We will start the process to kind of do a little update, but just do it internally. And I think we can accomplish most of what they would accomplish for this additional money.
Based on what's most relevant for us.
Somewhat, you may see some stuff come across that is completely irrelevant, but we want to be consistent with what the state is. Sac Beach infrastructure, this just deals with that tile line out there from the retention area by the new restaurant. It's on page 12 in the packet. Is we had talked with our engineer about getting a design, you know, what type of what size of pipe really is needed in order to handle the potential runoff from that area. So, you know, the short story out of this deal is that if the retainage area was big enough, an 18-inch pipe would handle that, so that if a big rain comes, there's some storage area there to catch the runoff. Then this 18-inch pipe could slowly drain things away. The other option is a 24-inch pipe, where the amount of retainage is significantly less. And to be consistent with what Boulders has proposed, you know, it would be this 24-inch tile that should be installed. They were right at the break-off point on retention area for this 18. You know, and if you got the chance, you could just install a 24 and you know, address any concerns. I talked with George about that. Basically, he's kind of in the same spot that he was before. He certainly would like to have the Boulders folks purchase the pipe if the city would be willing to install that. We had talked some about material, you know, plastic versus concrete. You hate to think that our preference might be plastic when we probably get the concrete in town, but plastic is much easier in this case to install. Probably takes half the time. But George hasn't committed either way, but I know he I think is open to either way, but if we can do business locally, he kind of like that too.
How much time?
Well, you figure you got 6-foot sections instead of 20-foot, and so you're gonna have, you know, in concrete 3-inch sidewalls. I mean, you're talking about probably 30 inches outside. I mean, there's just a lot more work to get them installed and interlaid. And the joints are harder, but, you know, it's whatever they want to do.
3 days instead of 2?
Oh, no, I would say, you know, I'm just figuring by the time you probably be at least double the time, just for the fact of the joints and everything else. I mean, just guessing. And if it's what's the tile coming? One time they were talking about going across the parking lot again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only 15.
That's an 18 coming up there.
So they would have to go to the big dike, and I don't know if there's enough room. So that'd be 18-inch pipe. you gotta go double the size of the capacity of the holding pond.
Yeah.
So, if they're worried about a constraint, then they would have to go the other direction with that 24.
They had talked about, well, maybe they just go back to their, kind of a deviation off their original plan. The original plan was just let water come out of this retainage berm, flow across the pavement into that intake. Look, that's over there at the bend of Boulders Drive. There's a little culvert intake over there. So that was the original plan. I think, and then they had better thoughts about that as far as it certainly would, be better and not have all of these hazards with slipping and whatnot if the water went directly into a storm sewer. So now they're looking at the idea though about going to that intake through a storm sewer, just because it's so much less of a distance in order to get there. That doesn't accomplish some of the stuff that we really want to do as far as being able to channel that water to go to the west.
And then Blackhawk Marina doesn't enter that basin?
What is that?
Well, the second to last sentence, he says, your engineer says, this also assumes that Blackhawk Marine drainage does not enter the basin.
Right. It would not enter this retainage berm area. And I don't know if there's any action tonight or not. You know where you guys sit, Tony? Are you ready to think about moving on this, or are we looking for a commitment? Or George is out of town now for a month.
Yeah, I'm gonna be back in town. This work's not gonna happen for a while, obviously, so,
That's what warmed up a little.
yeah.
Is there a lot of gray area there? Yeah, that following, I guess I'm kind of lost from where you want, how will that help us with the water going west? What you're trying to say?
If this plan to come straight south from the retainage berm to the ditch, that accomplishes what we wanted to do. If their plan might be to come out of that retainage berm, diagonal across the parking lot into this intake that's at the bend of Boulders Drive.
Okay.
Then the water just goes into the storm sewer system and goes down and maybe splits and goes each way, or whatever.
So that has been sort of the theory behind this all, and what George has been trying to communicate is that, obviously he's asking the city for something, but he feels that there's a benefit to helping remediate some of these issues that could continue to expound upon themselves, and we're still facing an issue, and we could just solve it if we can figure out a way to meet a common ground here, that we could solve it. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's what he's shared with you, Scott, right? I mean, that's your take on his opinion.
Well, we gotta
On
slow
behalf
up
of
the water
the
that goes east to keep away from that property.
Is this kind of, something we can, we come out knowing what I think is ultimately
But the best,
idea.
or the way that, I guess, instead of taking it over to that, I know where you're talking there in that corner, if you go straight south, then I wouldn't hit that T, and most of that would have less than, Jeff.
What's that?
If you went from the retention berm straight south down to that sewer, that wouldn't hit that T then, would it? It would all go
No, we
west.
have to go over, is there a 50-foot lot there? Do we have to
It
go-
would diagonal over a little bit and then come straight south.
But then all that water would go away from, who's the guy out there? Wilmer. It would, wouldn't it, or is that still split?
I don't know the elevation of the pipe that we're tying into. It's over the crown of the road, it should be. We're about 100 foot from where the other one ties in. It's just all where the lay of the natural ground ditches when they put the pipe in. So it's, it's just...
You're not gonna know till you do.
No, and it's, Kessler might be unhappy no matter what we do.
Well, I'm just saying if we kill two birds with
I'm
one
just
stone.
saying, he might,
Well, we're bound to upset somebody.
I get up in the morning.
So it would go across lot 1. I'm sorry, I'm just still catching up with Jack for your comment about that 50-foot lot. it will go across lot one, we're
It
gonna
would
have
have
to
to
get
go
some sort of easement.
No, it
From
would
them?
have to go on Boulder's property. So that's
Which
why I
would be
said
lot two.
lot two. It would diagonal a little bit and then.
So we don't have to, that which would be really good if we don't have to go over lot one, so
Yes,
it would not.
we would not.
And then probably stay 4 or 5 foot away from the gas line. Because I think it runs across that property too.
Okay. Well, I guess that's just out there as an FYI, and that'll come back to us. I'm sure the issue will come back as the weather turns, and we gotta make a decision. My last issue on the agenda dealt with this watershed management authority. Just understand that we're working to get a local group together that is Lake Preservation Association, Watershed Management Agency, you know, whatever terms we might choose, but the idea is interested group of local folks working in conjunction with the DNR and NRCS folks around here. But everything is essentially locally driven. We're the local advocates for the lake and the lake project. So Emily and I have been kind of working on this bit, and she's done some legwork with some other watershed management agencies. We're getting together with the Storm Lake folks here next week and going through how they have organized theirs. But then next Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock, we're getting this group of interested people together, and the DNR and the NRCS folks. But at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning, we're getting this group of people together. I think it would be great to have some council representation on this, really this core group that's going to organize the bigger group. And wondering if there might be some interest in
Where is
we've
this
got a
meeting
good
at?
volunteer, city council, chambers here. I know the timing doesn't work real well because we're doing it during the day, but if we say this general topic about are you interested in this watershed group, everybody who's interested in the watershed group, even if you can't be at the first go around.
I'll be at the
I'm gonna
first
be
meeting.
there.
Good.
Why are you looking at me?
You look like a DNR guy.
No, I deal with them now.
I'll be happy, I'll do it.
I thought you were gonna say you'd be happy to.
Volunteer benefit.
I'm already on the landfill.
Well, see, you're
As long as you'll keep that one, I'll do a lot of other things.
Very good. Okay. Mayor, you're welcome to show up
Yeah.
on Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
I'm gonna call him about 8, remind me.
Just the last couple things. Sac County League is this Thursday up at Sac, up at Cattleman's. At 6:30. Who's available on Thursday?
It says crossroads that changed.
Oh, excuse me.
No, it is crossroads.
You're correct. I had this wrote down wrong. So it's early for the crossroads on Thursday. Okay? Yeah. Social hours, 6:30.